Well, I know that's why we're doing this, because unless a miracle, and I'm hoping for one, and that's why I'm saying the funding needs to be there. We want people to know how to do this operation themselves, from going to do their licensing and everything that they need to do. Because, of course, as you cut away your equity, you're not going to be able to generate wealth. That's,
right.
you know.
That's kind of the end of it right there.
That's the problem with it. So we do have one successful candidate who is a female here, who's a sole proprietor. She's my hero. She's got her own dispensary up and running. She has a delivery service. As a matter of fact, she started out with a delivery service, and now she's moved into having her own dispensary. And she's also has some products that she's branded for herself. That's Benton over at Posh Green Collective here in San Francisco. First Black woman-owned dispensary in the Bay Area.
So she's one of your big success stories. Do you have a similar amount of people who have had kind of struggle getting into it? Or do you find that a lot of your folks end up going on to be sort of leaders of the industry?
Well, I have some leaders of the industry. Okay, so on the job side of things, and last year we had the 2019, they did a Bartender of the Year award in Las Vegas. And one of my very first clients that came through, and I gave him my training. He was also an Oaksterdam alumni, but I wanted to give him the customer service. So I sat down with him and just kind of talked to him, because what I really want people to understand is that, people are using cannabis, the fun stuff, for adult use, but there are a lot of people that really need cannabis for sustaining their lives a certain way, and so you may have someone with arthritis. I talk about handshaking, always grab gently, be respectful, be a good listener. And so he is now the Bartender of the Year. I'm like, I felt like I won the trophy. I drove over to Oakland to see him, and he jumps out the car. He goes, "Angela," and I'm like, "No." So Will Brown is the 2019 champ, and I'm like, "Yes, we won." So we have success stories. Another one of the dispensaries here is Sean Richards, who is partnering with Burners, the hip hop star. So they have a place called Burners on Hate. Sean is one of our clients as well. He went through Oaksterdam. He's Oaksterdam alumni, came through the Success Center program. We have a few equity brands that have come through and gotten up and running. There's SF Roots here in San Francisco. Morris over there, we're real proud of him as well. So there's some success stories, and that's why we refuse to give up over here.
So what advice would you give for folks out here in Massachusetts who are trying to do a similar job of helping equity applicants get their foot in the door?
I know people want to get in this, and what we're doing here, I think, is working as a blueprint on how to get things right. There's all these other things that are going on with the Office of Cannabis moving slowly. But in the interim, I say get as much knowledge as you can. Everyone's welcome to tune into our bi-monthly workshops. Even if you're in Massachusetts, you can still tune in. I post a lot of stuff for our workshops at 415 Queen Cannabis on Instagram, and also at the Success Center's website. So if folks are interested, they can surely connect with us that way.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you.
I want to say this one more thing. I always tell everyone that if you're from the hood, we're all over the place, and there's one united community across the nation. I don't care where you are. You're welcome at Success Centers.
And now for your latest cannabis news. There's a major police reform bill coming up for a debate in the Massachusetts State House this week, and it includes a controversial proposition to use cannabis tax revenue to fund police training. The language was noticed pretty quickly by Congresswoman Liz Miranda, who's proposed 3 amendments to the bill. One of those amendments would require that any marijuana funding that does go to police training should be equal to or less than the funding to promote social equity in the state's cannabis industry. According to the Boston Business Journal, Google has hit a new level of restricting marijuana content on its platform by blocking public service announcements from the Cannabis Control Commission. The Massachusetts Commission is appealing Google's rule on their posts, which will likely be overturned. But the issue has drawn some much-needed attention to how the widespread rules on blocking cannabis content is actually hurting efforts to educate and offer reliable resources in legal states. We might be seeing legalized cannabis on the federal level sooner than you think. A group of high-profile marijuana reform organizations and civil rights groups has written a letter to members of Congress this week imploring them to support federally legalizing marijuana in the wake of the pandemic and the national protests over police brutality. The letter has been signed by groups like the ACLU, the Human Rights Watch, Drug Policy Alliance, NORML, and the Center for American Progress, and they're calling themselves the Marijuana Justice Coalition. The coalition is specifically supporting the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, also known as the MORE Act, which was authored by Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler of New York. The coalition says Nadler's path to legalization is the best option for a long-term equitable economic recovery after the pandemic. Finally, the Different Leaf crew is sending love to the family of Jawara Tosh, who sadly passed away on July 17th. Jawara was the youngest son of reggae legend Peter Tosh and the brother of our friend and former guest Niambe McIntosh. Jawara was a musician, a father, and an activist, and he was imprisoned for marijuana in 2017 and was beaten into a coma by a fellow inmate. After making years of progress and recovery, Jawara sadly passed away at the age of 40. He's left us with a powerful life story and legacy, and we'll forever be grateful for his music and his presence in our cannabis community. Thanks for listening, and again, please remember to leave us a rating and a review on podchaser.com. Make sure you're checking out differentleaf.com and enjoy some of the gorgeous pages of our magazine. And you can also find us on social media at Different Leaf. I'm on social media at Brit the British. Thanks to our producer, Andrea Maraskin, and thanks to Homebody for the music.